Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi ho everybody and welcome back to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell, Griffey D-Pad, and with me as always is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Mitch George. How's it going?
Watch Strange Worlds.
Watch Strange World singular. That's what we're talking
Singular.
about.
What?
Singular.
Strange Worlds will be the sequel that will definitely happen because this movie is great.
Isn't Strange Worlds the subtitle of that current new Star Trek series? Or is that Brave New World?
Brave New World.
Brave New World, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a book. I know that's a book.
This is definitely not a great title for a movie because it kind of blends in with everything else, sci-fi and weird, but it's still one heck of a movie.
Now, we're talking about Strange World today, an episode we have been dying to talk about since this movie came out in theaters. We are going to jump into it here in just a moment, but as always, we have a super, super special guest. How's it going? You're welcome back to the show, Jason.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be back.
You are back now. You are our first video guest.
World. Pardon?
You are our first video guest.
Oh, wow.
Welcome to the YouTubes and the TikToks and the Instagram Reels and all that jazz.
That's right, folks. We are on YouTube now. I know we're being insufferable about it. We're not about to stop.
No pressure.
Go to YouTube, hit button, please. We are last I checked, we were away from 100 views on our first video. 1 view. That's all we need. Come on. We can do it.
I'm keeping an eye on it so that if it happens during the episode, I will notice.
I was going to say, it might have already happened because that was like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah. The thing about YouTube is it's a fickle piece of software, but we love it. Seriously, go check us out there. Go check us out on TikTok. Links as always in the description. That is our big project at the moment. We will get this up to something reasonable that we can actually start using and showing off to people at some point.
That is the plan.
But yeah, how are you guys doing? We're talking about Strange World today. We're having a good time. It's January. It's the beginning of the new year.
What a heck of a time for a movie like this to drop on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. This movie did not do well. This movie did not do well at the box office.
I don't know how you wanted to structure this episode. Like
chaos.
We can talk about that stuff on the later end.
It'll be like rigmarole, non-spoilery stuff. Facts about the movie, including how it did at the box office, stuff like that. Then we'll get into the spoiler territory. Ultimately, we'll end up with a bit of a plot recap, probably. I don't know, Griffin, if you got a plot recap.
We'll do one. I like doing them, but it's gonna be loose. We're kind of just vibing today. I am running on zero energy, so
we'll carry it. Got it.
It's going to be weird, which is kind of perfect for this episode. But no, we're talking about.
You could say it's going to be strange.
One would say.
It is going to be strange.
No. We're going to Strange World.
Before we jump into everything, let me remind you, folks, this is D Plus Us, where we put up episodes about all things Disney, plot recaps, having a good time. Mitch eats on camera. It's a great, fantastic time.
Burger Priest? Burger Priest. Is that?
Random burger restaurant. We're not sponsored.
We are not sponsored. Sorry. Unless they want to sponsor us, in which case we are.
Brought to you by Burger Priest.
Not brought to you by XYZ, but we will be if they pay us. No, you can find us all over the internet at D Plus Us, but most importantly is that YouTube that we are going to continue to shill until the end of time. If you enjoy that, go give us a subscription, yada, yada, yada. Of course, this will be a full plot recap. We will fully spoil it, but we will give you a spoiler warning before we do. Now that we got all of that out of the way, let me hit y'all with some facts about this. Strange World released on November 23rd, 2022, with a runtime of 102 minutes, directed by the one and only Don Hall. You may know him from a few other pretty big movies he directed. Currently, stuff like Raya and the Last Dragon. He was the co-director on Moana. And more importantly than any of that, he directed Big Hero 6. This dude consistently has been directing some of my favorite stuff Disney's put out in the last couple decades.
100%.
Dude's great, and this is no exception, at least for me. As far as I also want to shout out though. On this time, we don't normally shout out screenplay, but I feel like it is good to shout out Ki Nguyen as the screenwriter for this one. He. I was quickly looking for pronouns there. He also was the writer on Raya and the Last Dragon. This is his second Disney film. So I'm hoping to see a lot more from this guy. He is doing a great job.
He's also listed as co-director on the film, which is interesting.
Okay, Wikipedia needs to update its shit.
I'm looking at IMDb. I got you. You got the wikis. I got the databases. We're set.
Wiki gives me all the interesting things like budget and box office and stuff.
Yeah, you get the breakdown. I get all the trivia.
Let's hit some of the stars of this. Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid, who both of those two I did not realize were actually in this movie to begin with.
Did you realize this is not the first time they've played father and son?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I just blew Jason's spine.
White Noise?
Nope. We'll get there. We'll get there. Sorry.
We've also got Jabuki Young White, Gabrielle Union, and Lucy Liu.
You're skipping over my favorite character in the whole thing, Karan Soni, playing Caspian, who is just
it's not a main
useless
character
in the best
at
way.
all. But
I don't care. Karan Soni, if you don't remember him, he was the taxi driver in Deadpool. He's just, I love him in everything he does, and he's fantastic.
He does have one of the best lines in this movie. I will give you that.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, the music though for this one is kind of something I really want to note because music is amazing. It's fantastic, and it's done by the one and only Henry Jackman. You know, known for stuff like Kong Skull Island, X-Men First Class, Wreck-It Ralph, Big Hero 6, also Detective Pikachu. Gotta shout that out for Mitch.
I appreciate that.
For me, Uncharted 4: Thieves End, like the dude gets around with work, and it was so good. The score of this movie is so good. The other thing, and then we can actually start talking about, unless you got something you want to say about the music.
Before we get off of the score, I love that this whole thing gave me very like Indiana Jones meets Up vibes in terms of this presentation at the beginning and with the score throughout. Like that title presentation is Indiana Jones, and the score I think draws a lot of inspiration from those films, and it's sort of nostalgic in a way that just makes me want to see the new Indiana Jones film that much more, which I'm sure we will get to
felt like an
talking about
homage to Journey to the Center. This whole movie felt like an homage to Journey to the Center of the Earth, the original.
It is
one
100%
in 1864.
that,
Like the
you
old
mean
one.
not the Dwayne the Rock Johnson?
I pretend that movie doesn't exist. That movie is terrible.
Hey, but don't forget we got Journey 2 with Vanessa Hudgens. I think was in that for some reason.
I don't know. No, let's talk about numbers. Of course, we gotta talk about numbers. But before we can do that, I want to shout out this movie for one major reason only, other than the movie's great. This film is the first Disney movie to have an openly LGBTQ plus lead character. Good job,
Let's
Disney.
go.
You did the bare minimum. I don't know. I feel like we did celebrate it at least a little bit.
I mean, it needs to be talked about more, and that was one of the things that I talked about most coming out of this movie. Was you have one of your leads who is an openly gay mixed race guy. The dog is an amputee, and they're not things that the plot doesn't stay with those aspects of those characters for any longer than it really needs to. And it feels like, at least for me, and I would need to, hear from others, but it feels like it almost tries as best it can in the most Disney way possible to normalize it. And it's good to see this here, and we definitely need to see more. And it's good that we're at least getting a start with this film, except no one went and friggin' saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know from the first time I started watching this movie that Ethan was an openly gay character.
So I didn't.
I thought the backlash why this movie was not getting pushed was originally because of the Searcher and Meridian. I think because they were showing like an openly biracial family dynamic, like couple. Yeah, like I thought that was what was hindering this movie. Not that it isn't. But
I really think it was a mix because this movie was not marketed. This movie was not marketed.
No,
That's the other thing.
absolutely
Is the marketing
not.
budget just didn't exist.
Like I went into this movie having no idea. Like I was one of the very few people that saw this in the theaters, and when we see Ethan's crush, which is like such an adorable moment.
It's such a dad thing, the way the Searcher reacted to it as well.
That, but also the friends. The friends especially is what made the moment for me. But like seeing that was like, oh wait, what? How has no one talked about this? Like, how are they not using this as a marketing point? Like,
because Disney doesn't want to market that way. We know that. We've seen that repeatedly. We saw the
cough, cough, Owl House, cough, cough.
Well, cough, cough, that one episode of Baymax, cough, cough, right? Where it became news that it featured a trans character presenting
Who's
as
in it for like
male. And
30 seconds. If that.
yeah, and the internet went wild about that. And they didn't even think about talking about this, which in a way is like, why didn't you use this as a way to market the film? But also, why hasn't the internet run away with this the way that it tends to do with stuff like this? And it's kind of disappointing from both fronts.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing. It was like we've talked about Marvel and the way they've been, or not Marvel. Well, Marvel too, actually, but Disney just in general, and both Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, about how they've been handling representation. It's something we talk about a lot because that's the state of the world we're in. We're not going to stop. And I feel like this is legitimately one of the better ones. I just wish that they had really stuck to their guns behind this movie, and seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff now, it's not entirely surprising they didn't, especially with the shifts that have been happening on the more corporate side of Disney with Chapek and Iger and whatnot before this came out, and Chapek kind of being very, I'm not going to say against promoting inclusion, but very wary of how he did it after he just massively fumbled the ball with the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. Like, it's not entirely surprising, but it is still disappointing.
It's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't go far enough. And I feel like we will continue. My hope is that we'll continue to see more of this normalization of representation of, mixed race relationships, family dynamics, biracial children, biracial relationships. Like, this is the way it should be, because it better, as someone who is a white cis male, it's great to see this because I'm used to seeing myself represented in media, and I want others to be able to feel what I've been able to feel the entirety of my life. I don't really know what it means to not see what I look like or how I feel represented in film, and it's disappointing that not everyone has gotten to feel that way.
And we'll be there eventually. I know we'll be there eventually. It's still it is a long road.
Yeah.
Eventually our generation takes over and it'll be normal, I hope.
Yeah. At least we're making strides now that this is now out in the zeitgeist. It's available to be watched online. I just hope there's no revisionist history of some sort of, because we know how Disney is with their back catalog and making changes and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I hope this stays as is and that more people get to see this movie and its representation that it's trying to put out there from the creator's point of view.
Yeah, I hope they don't. I also don't. I can't see them doing it, honestly. They would be taking out a solid 30 minutes of this film if they did. And this movie's already short.
Yeah.
Which, thank God.
We say it every time we watch a short movie, but short movies rock.
So I'm done. Sorry, Jason, you were trying to say something. I'll let you say it, and then I'll.
No, I was reading about there's always this thing with films where if it's a gay character that it's very off, they're off to the side, and they're able to then, if it's not important to the movie, they're able to cut it out, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is that Ethan is a prime character in this movie. That I read that there was 20 markets that would not allow this movie to be shown as is. So you would have to then cut out Ethan from the main storyline.
Which you literally that would can't do.
Which you can't do.
And I mean, Disney has done that in the past across a few of their films, but they've been better the last couple of years of saying, no, this movie's coming out as is, with certain things we've seen from Marvel films and from Disney films specifically. So I'm glad that they're committing more to just saying no to some of these markets.
Mm-hmm. Which is, frankly, the only way we're going to continue to get this kind of representation. And Strange World, despite its box office, is still actually doing relatively well, at least on streaming. Let's hit those numbers that we kind of mentioned earlier. I don't necessarily know the budget of this movie. I've heard 135 million. I've heard 180 million. So somewhere within that range, but its box office either way was a massive flop with only 72.1 million. One of the biggest flops of 2022, which is
I think one of if not the biggest flop in the history of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
At least Disney animation.
It's the biggest flop since I want to say Princess and the Frog. That's right. Princess and the Frog flopped.
I would have thought Treasure Planet.
Princess and the Frog flopped because it was a 2D movie, at the beginning of the hype of 3D animated movies. It is still one of the best Disney movies. Everyone should go see it. We should do an episode about it eventually, maybe closer to the
Relaunch of Splash.
yeah, the launch of what
So we can talk about the
Tiana's
parks some
Bayou
more.
Adventure. Dude, we're gonna
Tiana's
just have to
Bayou
do a
Adventure.
parks show at some point.
Well, I guess there's a new Tron park, is there not?
It's a
Opening?
new
So you
Tron
guys
ride
gonna
going up. But here's the
revisit-
thing: we've talked
Well,
about
let's-
both Trons already on the show.
Okay.
This is a win for Tron fans everywhere, though, folks. No, seriously though, this movie flopped big time. That said,
Yeah.
as soon as it came to Disney Plus, it became the #1 most popular movie on the platform. I think the 7th or 8th most popular piece of content in general. Nothing's going to dwarf Bluey at the moment. Bluey is like ridiculously popular right now.
That's the one that the parents will put on in the background while they need their kids to watch the TV for a while.
That, or it's people like me who have nothing better to do than sit down and watch all of Bluey. The show's
See,
great.
when I did, so instead of that, I sat down and I've started rewatching Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Also, everyone should go watch Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, we keep saying we're going to do an episode on it. We will do an episode.
I'm
on
watching it now. We could do it in the next month or two if you want.
it. I got the thumbnail made already. So
Let's do it.
but that said, Strange World has been the #1 movie up until the day of our day of recording today, January 13th. So over a month, it came out right before, or almost a month, it came out right before Christmas.
It was this year's Encanto, or the year before that, it was Soul,
Right.
I believe.
Soul, yeah.
Disney
Yeah,
loves
Soul.
dropping one big thing right at Christmas.
Yeah.
The only movie at top of it right now is Avatar, which is not surprising. Even then, it's only up by like 40 points. It's not much. Like the gap between Avatar and Strange World is like 40 points. The Strange World and Encanto, which is #3 at the moment, is like 200 points. It is a
Which is-
neck and neck race.
That is the dichotomy of movie lengths, where we were talking, oh, how great is it that we have these shorter movies, and then you look at Avatar, which is like 3.5 hours long versus the 110 minutes of Strange World. And when you said, oh yeah, it's so great we're getting these shorter movies, I'm like, I sat down today to watch Avatar, and that was a mistake because I still haven't finished the damn movie.
Look, folks, a
Oh,
couple of people
really?
have asked me if we're going to talk about Avatar on the show. No, we're not. I have no
I've
interest in
yet to be.
talking about that movie. I don't like that movie.
Have you done an episode on Pocahontas?
No, we could do about that instead.
I was going to say, if you do an episode on Pocahontas, you've done an episode on Avatar. It's the same plot, just one is an hour and a half long and one is 3.5 hours long.
That said, I would
So
love to
you're
do an
saying,
episode.
are you
about
saying then Pocahontas 2 is just like Way of Water?
it. Pocahontas
not
2 is
that
a
I've
better
watched
sequel
one.
than Way of Water is? And
I was
stand by
watching Avatar just because I feel like as a film enjoyer, I should see Avatar: The Way of Water while it's still in theaters, because I've only ever seen Avatar on home video.
that. Like, here's the thing.
So that was part of what motivated me to watch it today.
I don't love Way of Water. Like, a lot of people are super high on it. I don't understand it.
I feel
That
like it's
movie
one or
is
the
so
other. There's no in between. It's either you love it or you don't understand why people love
Like,
it.
it is
I've
pretty
yet
enough
to
that it's
see
worth
Way of
seeing in
Water.
theaters.
That's my
Yeah.
thinking.
But,
Yeah,
like,
I
thought
just don't have the
normal.
interest and time right now to see it. in
I was gonna say,
theaters.
yeah, you're chalking out like half of your day if you want to go see that movie.
The problem that I have too with being in Toronto is we only have like 2 or 3 proper IMAX screens in the city or in like the region. And it's none of them are really accessible for me. I have to go right downtown if I want to go to a proper IMAX theater. So it's just like I am definitely carving out the majority of a day, just committing to going and seeing this movie, which has not
Yeah.
been something I've pulled myself together to do. Maybe next
And
week.
if you want to see also in the HFS format, I think you have to
Oh, the
you
high,
have to
yeah, the high
look
frame rate. I think
you got to
the
look
theater I'd
around
be-
as well which one supports it, right?
Yeah, I mean the theater I would be going to, that IMAX theater, supported the high frame rate. So
Okay.
I feel like if I'm going to see that movie, I'm going to see it on the biggest screen with the prettiest 3D, because I also hate 3D movies. But we're not here to talk about a 3D film. We're here to talk about a 3D animated film, and that's Strange World.
Well, I guess guess what? Way of Water's also just
Segue.
3D animation. But no, we've talked about it. We've hit the
There's
plus
some
and-
people in that. It's not all blue
It's
people. There are
mostly-
some normal looking people.
Look, it's live action in the same way that Jungle Book and the Lion King remakes are live action. It's not. No, we're talking about Strange World. Obviously, I love it. Been very high on it. But I want to hear from you two. Jason, you're our guest. So what did you think after sitting down and watching this movie?
I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't like I thought it was good. Like I wasn't like blown away by anything in particular, but I thought the story was in general great with the father and son dynamic, but also like how it deals with like climate change and the environment as well. Like I didn't know what to expect from Strange World. I thought it was just going to be like a whole movie about expedition. And when I saw segments of this movie, I was like, it feels like it was a part of Up, or it feels like a part of Atlantis, or a bit of Treasure Planet. Like it falls into those movies, into their space. Like it's like a tidbit of here and there with this whole pulp action like film. And I loved how the intro started off like with like that comic book, the pulp look when they started doing the Clade song, and I was like, oh. And I wish they went back more to those segments, but overall, I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Mitch, how about you?
Yeah, I loved that the book ending the film with that pop vinyl kind of comic booky look and feel, especially with the intro and the song. This was my biggest surprise of 2022 because I went into this movie like most people, not knowing what it was about because Disney decided not to market it to anybody.
And
So
let me just say the trailer first came out in June of this year. I mean, of last year, and I was like, and I thought I honestly thought this movie was coming out in 2023, and it was like 6 months out basically till Thanksgiving, and the marketing was just
Almost
I think
non-existent.
we got the trailer as part of some Disney presentation, I think, didn't we?
I thought it was part of like D23. But
It might have been D23. I just couldn't remember the time frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was one of those things where even from the trailer, I didn't really get. I got the same. I'm like, oh, this is Up, but with weird blobby looking things. Okay, I'm in. And getting to see this in theaters again, this was one of those things of. I was lucky enough that I got tickets to see it in an advanced screening. So thank you to our friends over at Geekcentric for that. But it was one of those things of seeing this movie. Like I couldn't imagine what seeing this movie in a theater of like 14 people might have been like, but seeing this in a full theater where people were reacting to it and having fun with it and also not knowing what to expect was so good. And like you're saying, the themes, this movie didn't go where I expected it to go, especially in 2022, and has the single best line, I think, in any Disney movie, especially with what happened shortly after its release to former CEO Bob Chapek. It's just it hit in a way I didn't expect it to, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I want more people to watch this movie.
it is rare that Mitch steps out of a movie and immediately messages me about a specific line in a movie.
One line. One line.
Which line?
We'll
was
get
it?
to it.
We'll get into
We'll
it
get
when
to it.
after we give a spoiler warning.
Okay.
But no, I was very high on this movie, both coming into the theaters and rewatching it again last night. I was one of the people in that theater of like 14 people, but that theater was also like the 14 of us were loud as hell and popping off at some of the best moments in this. Moments like that line, which we'll get to. Moments like revealing Ethan's crush / I'm just going to call him Ethan's boyfriend, even though he's not for like most of it. He is kind of at the end, but it's easier this way. Like popping off and stuff like that. It was still a great time, but this is the most un-Disney Disney movie that has come out in recent memory for me. Of having this conservation story is very Disney, even though it's something we very much don't talk about. Like, you know, we see it a lot with like Disney's work with National Geographic, with like the Disney nature movies that come out, not to mention everything they do with Animal Kingdom. If you're really interested in conservation, like look into that stuff. It's very interesting.
Some really good documentaries on Animal Kingdom if you want to look at how they enable conservation through that theme park. It's really, really cool.
Which was something that was really surprising to me, but also this is a story that I was never expecting from Disney, like ever. First off, a Jules Verne-inspired adventure story. Just didn't think we were getting that period in this day and age. Featuring a openly queer character. Also dealing with familial trauma through fathers, which was the big
generational trauma, yeah.
We've seen a few generational trauma storylines at this point. You know, we saw Encanto, we saw Turning Red. And I was very high on those films, but I never thought that we'd actually see one on the male side of a family, because that's just not a story that people tell. I mean, it's something that's very well thrown out there that, mental health for men especially is not something that's talked about day to day. And seeing it here and not seeing just how accurate some of this shit is was so good. Like, there's a moment where Ethan and his mom are watching Searcher and his dad. They're practically the same person. Yeah, but don't let them hear that. Like, that is just some real shit.
Yeah, just them mirroring exactly what the other is doing without even realizing that they have the same mannerisms. And it's funny to see that, especially after so much time spent apart, that they still share all of these characteristics just by, like, it's the nature versus nurture argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that this is a special movie. I do think it has some low points. Like, some of the dialogue is not great. A lot of the side characters kind of suck, if I'm being honest. But all in all, I do think this is a good movie. I do think this deserved more of a marketing budget. I think that was the only issue here. Like, even if you look back at reviews on it, people were generally positive. They had those exact issues. It's beautiful. It's a very interesting idea. Some of the dialogue's a little rough, but it's a good ride. It's a fun ride. You should go see this movie. We're just not going to tell you anything about it. The most promo for this movie I saw was Regal giving away posters for the movie. And they give away posters for like every other movie. They have a bunch of them sitting out on a table at my theater, and I take them and put them up on my closet door.
As one does.
Before this podcast recording we were doing, I had an idea for a pitch if I was Disney to market this movie. This movie was coming out Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep.
So Macy's Day Parade. That falls in the...
That's a Thanksgiving thing, yeah.
Thanksgiving.
What if Disney made a balloon of the Venture, the airship that they...
That would have been smart.
That would have been awesome.
And they had all the people pulling that thing were the expeditioner crew, dressed up like that. And just whoever now narrates the Macy's Parade just said, look, here's the adventure from the upcoming Disney movie, Strange World. There you go.
There's a lot they could have done,
awesome
and then
balloon.
they did.
That would have been an awesome balloon. Seeing as this big airship coming down New York. I don't know.
It's interesting. It really was a great movie. It was really so unique. I wish they'd done more. Like, even with their nonverbal characters, like Splat is hilarious.
They have a three-legged dog.
I love that stupid little thing. I love the dog.
Did they ever explain what happened to Legend? Like how he lost his...
And they don't have to. It's the same thing with...
I was interested to know like what happened.
That's something that will be a Disney short on Disney Plus if this film continues to do well on Disney Plus, which I hope it does.
I literally
one of those
like
things of
hear me out. Like, like the old shorts of like Pluto and Chip and Dale.
Yeah.
Just give it to us with the dog and Splat.
Yeah, that's all they need to do, honestly. Like they are setting up these characters to be merchandised, and then they didn't market the film in a way that those characters would be merchandised, which is kind of crazy.
Was there any merchandise at all, though? Like, I don't remember seeing any toys at Walmart for...
I haven't seen anything for it.
Yeah.
I try not to look at Shop Disney, one, because international shipping sucks, and two, because I spend too much money when I look at Shop Disney. But now
it's really an issue. But yeah, I don't think there's been any Strange World merch.
I'm sure they'll say it's something to do with the pandemic.
They have the normal stuff, like some T-shirts. They've got they have a Splat plushie.
I want it.
They have like the action figures they make for every one of their movies, but I haven't seen any of this stuff merchandised.
There's also a Legend plushie.
I mean, I think it says a lot that the first two links of this are Hot Topic and Box Lunch when you Google it.
I mean, I went to Shop Disney specifically to look at what they had. And they have a couple of shirts and a couple of plush, but that's really it. And I would be curious to know, like, at the parks, if there was any push for merchandising on this, but I fully expect that not to have been the case.
Okay, all this said and done, let's make the shift here. Let's go full spoilers, folks. So if you are still hanging out and you haven't watched this movie, go watch it. It's a short movie. It's a really great time. And come on back and listen to our full spoiler thoughts. Starting now. Let's talk about that line. The best line in this movie.
Go for it.
Mitch.
I want to merchandise you. or something along those lines.
Yeah,
I
it
don't remember
was
the
like,
exact
oh,
line.
this is adorable. I want to merchandise it. The funniest line. That's why I think the Splat plushie is hilarious.
Yeah, because it is that is a direct jab at former CEO Bob Chapek, who wanted to only put out things that they could strongly merchandise, which is probably part of why this movie didn't do as well as it did, is because they didn't think that they could merchandise it. So it's just ironic that that line stayed in there in the after the final cut.
Like that's
How
why
can
I
you
say,
not merchandise this?
well, I don't
I
think
mean,
I think it's a really hard one to merchandise because you merchandise certain parts of this and you spoil the movie. Of like this big moment at the end of us realizing that, oh, this is actually a living being that we've been traveling through this whole time, which was such a cool reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean, that would be an awesome battle set to have, or have like the adventure or the other expedition vehicles that they had in the Strange World.
I had a realization last night, and it was the strongest realization I've ever had, and the reason why more people should watch this movie. People have been wanting a sequel to Osmosis Jones for decades at this point. This movie is that sequel, and nobody knows it.
I was actually thinking of a other movie that Dennis Quaid was in long time ago called Inner Space with Martin Short.
Oh yeah,
and how he goes into somebody's body, and it's like,
this movie is just Osmosis Jones, but they're not the antibodies this time. They're the thing that sit on top of the body. But like this movie is Osmosis Jones.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is, right?
I don't like
think
thinking about that, but
yeah.
yeah.
The only thing is, Osmosis Jones was a Warner Brothers thing, so.
Yeah, and they never made a sequel. So there you go. Disney made your sequel. Now go watch this movie.
No, I now that we can actually talk full spoilers on this, I do think I loved the conservation stuff. I loved also that we got these 3 different viewpoints of like I did not love Yeager for most of this movie, which I don't think you're supposed to.
No,
but like him being this ultra burn everything to the ground, like everything's out to kill me because he's had to be. You know, he's been stuck down there for 25 years. Then you got
Searcher.
Searcher.
Alive that long is impressive.
You have Searcher, who's just farm everything, and then you have Ethan, who is live with the land. And the way that comes together in my favorite scene in this movie, which is them playing essentially what is Settlers of Catan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, is that what Settlers of Catan is? Because I've never played.
It's similar.
I've never played
but
either.
That's
but
what those hex shaped cards reminded
it's mostly
me of.
around resource management, is it not?
Yeah,
that's what
it's like a
Well, so that's what that game is supposed to be. That they're playing. It's supposed to be about resource management and like living with the land and making a thriving society, and that's essentially what Catan is too. But I've also only played that game twice because that game you play one of those games and it takes a week. So
yeah. No, yeah. I love that Ethan ended up being that middle ground and the idea of finding like it's the old adage of like the children are our future, right? Where the next generation knows what's up. Like you see that right now. You look at our millennial generation. You look at Gen, who came after us, Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Yeah, like, and we know that things are messed up. We know that these are problems, but we don't have the ability, we have the ability to be able to make these things better, but we aren't stepping up in a way that we have to. And here Ethan steps up and knows what the right thing is, has that argument with his dad. They come to this mass realization of, oh, we're going to kill the only thing keeping us alive if we don't stop this Pando thing. And they do the thing. Mm-hmm. The end. There's your plot.
This is a movie that could like inspire a young generation even more than they've already been inspired. I mean, seriously, like just looking at the stuff that younger Gen Z is doing at the moment is nothing short of inspiring for some people.
I think people will come back to this film to realize like all the themes that this film deals with, and it'll be one of those.
You look at someone who's acting on her morals like Greta Thunberg, and it's just like we need more people like that. And I hope that this movie does inspire folks to be more like her or more aware of what's going on and not like, I feel like we are living through a time where a lot of us are just very passive and live and let live. And I'm very guilty of that more often than not, and I need to be better. And I think there's a lot we can all do to, treat this planet a little better.
It's one of those movies that kind of has perfect timing in that sense of talking about this, where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're seeing people do some things, but seeing a company like Disney doing something like this is something that can be ridiculously powerful. There's just times where I think Disney just doesn't appreciate what it can do. Actually, more often than not, I think Disney doesn't appreciate what the power they have. But
I mean, it is also kind of ironic that they put this message out, yet I wonder what it costs for them to manufacture and distribute the merchandise that they're selling based on this film. So it's one of those things that you think, oh yeah, it's great that they're putting this message out, but like, also, what are they really doing? Like, John Oliver had a really good piece this past season on his show on carbon neutrality and the idea that there are so many businesses that are trying to go carbon neutral and talk about carbon recapture technologies, and that it's all kind of just a bunch of baloney, and it isn't really cutting back on things, and it's more, oh, we're doing other things to offset the terrible things that we're still doing, when what we need to do is stop doing the terrible things to our environment. And it's sad, and I hope we can get to a point where we're not that as sad about the state of the world and how we're mucking it up.
yeah, it's always one of those ironic things talking about this stuff and talking about how this comes from Disney. Because here's that reminder, folks, that I am the most anti-Disney fan out there. Of Disney is still a mega corporation that still has some absolutely terrible business practices that they're just not stopping. They're not going to stop because it makes them money. And it is
there are rumors right now that Disney might become involved in the acquisition of World Wrestling Entertainment, a company whose current chairman of the board is known for using company funds to pay off the women that he cheated on his wife with. So they will do bad things.
Like they're still a corporation, and never trust a CEO and whatnot. And at the same time, we had this conversation when we talked about Andor, of the absolute irony that what was it, Fennec? Was that the name of the kid? No, Fennec's not the kid.
The manifesto.
Yeah, the manifesto. The manifesto and then the speech afterwards and whatnot came from a Disney product. Like, there is this hilarious irony within all of that stuff, but do I think
we can love the product Disney makes while also trying our best to hold a mega corporation accountable for the decisions that they're making and the things that they're doing? I think that's reasonable.
Which reminds me, Disney, just pay your damn theme park workers a living wage, for fuck's sake.
Don't force your Imagineers to relocate halfway across the country.
They might not be doing that anymore, but
I know, and I really hope that decision gets reversed.
It's more of Disney's currently in a fight with the workers' union for their theme park employees, literally just asking for a working wage, a living wage. Pay them, for God's sake.
I know.
Moving on, I want to talk a little bit more about the cast. Mostly because, I did not recognize Jake Gyllenhaal or Dennis Quaid at all. But I want to talk about the narrator. Do either of you know who the narrator was? Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, I did not know that until I read the credits.
Alan Tudyk was the narrator. The GOAT returns yet again for another Disney movie. I think this dude has more Disney movie credits than any other person in existence at this point.
Do we
the
count
dude played a
credits that
rooster
are
in
in
Moana,
other? He's played things across all of Disney's properties. Are we talking Disney proper or Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star
Disney,
Wars?
Pixar.
In which case?
Disney, Pixar. I would say Disney and Pixar.
Okay. Because I was going to say, he also played he did a bunch of voices in American Dad, which is now technically Disney.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's one of the best Star Wars characters, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he played Duke Weselton and Duke Weaseltown.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like all the voices in this were great. I do think Caspian was, for more often than not, funny. There was a couple of jokes there that landed flat for me.
Were either of you familiar with Jabuki Young White before this movie?
No.
So he has been one of my favorite things about the Trevor Noah era of The Daily Show. He's worked as a correspondent on The Daily Show, and he is so goddamn funny. Like, if you can find any of his stand-up bits or any of the bits that he did for The Daily Show, just go and watch them. This dude is hilarious. I would imagine within the next 5 or 10 years, he's doing big things.
Yeah, he was one that was like I didn't recognize him at first, but he was in Only Murders in the Building.
Okay.
Oh, he was one of the podcast addicts or whatever, right? Selling the merch. Yeah.
Yeah,
I assumed he was like from a Disney series prior.
so he
to
was
this.
in Baymax as well.
I was gonna say he was one of the.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he played a character in Baymax.
Okay.
But like honestly, most of what I've seen him in is him being like. It's funny, I've seen him in a lot of things, but I never realized who he was.
Yeah, he was also in a few episodes of Aquafina is Nora from Queens, which if you haven't seen that show, it's awesome and you should watch it.
Also, Big Mouth, BoJack, American Vandal. He's been in a lot of stuff.
I don't even know who he played in Big Mouth.
He was even in Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah, he's been around, but the thing I know him best for was his time with The Daily Show, and he's friggin' hilarious. So do give some of his stuff a watch in other places because dude is funny.
Other notables: Gabriel Union and Lucy Liu in this.
Yeah.
I haven't seen or heard from Lucy Liu in so long. So
Yeah, it's
Good
been
to
a
see
little
her.
bit.
yeah, it's been a while.
I
Surprised.
was gonna say, like, what did she do? Yeah, I don't know what I would have seen her in
She's still been
before
doing
this.
stuff, but like not like massively popular stuff.
The last thing I remember watching and recognizing her voice was the episode of Star Wars Visions that she did.
Oh, was she in that? I don't remember.
We're gonna be seeing more from her next year because with Shazam. This is mostly.
That's right. She's one of the villains in Shazam. Forgot about that.
Not only one of the villains,
that
she's
movie-
Calypso.
Is that movie coming out?
They
Because
say
now you
it's
got James
going
Gunn
to.
doing the DC thing, and you got Ezra Miller, who's
I think
pleading
it's
guilty to charges
it's-
to avoid jail time, and it's just like,
Shazam is still
Why?
planned. It's still planned to come out. Shazam 2. I just don't know the release time it's going to be.
yeah. So I mean, Lucy Liu in Star Wars Visions, she's the English voice actor for the leader of the Bandit clan in the first episode, the Ronin episode,
Oh, okay.
which is
Okay.
one of my favorite episodes of that season. So
Oh, the Umbrella lightsaber.
Did you
Umbrella
know that
lightsaber, yeah.
Lucy Liu was an SSX Turkey?
No, but that seems right. Given
That
the
seems
time frame.
right.
Like, I was like,
Seems
what?
something you would do.
Like
at the
I'm
time
just
in your
scrolling
career.
through like her credits at the moment. I'm like, what?
I mean, she might be most well known in animation from the Kung Fu Panda movies, right?
Kung Fu Panda, but she's also one of the fairies in the Tinkerbell Pixie Hollow stuff. She's Silver
That,
Mist.
those are words.
Okay, look. Let's y'all are old people. Let me bring the young person thing in here for a little bit. Gotta bring it up every show. No, Pixie Hollow.
No, because you were the one today calling us out on Twitter for being old, and you're right because we is old.
We is old. No,
We is
no,
old.
seriously
I'm
though.
old.
Like Pixie Hollow was super popular for a really, really short amount of time in retrospect, but it felt like a while. They put out a bunch of stuff for it. It's like a figurehead thing now in the parks and whatnot. And Silver Mist was one of the more popular characters in that. Not a series. What's the word I'm looking for? Franchise. So I'm not surprised to see her and stuff like that. Also, it's fun to just kind of scroll through her credits because there's a lot of credits. She's been in so much stuff.
Yep.
I'll get back to the actual film credits though. We kind of mentioned most of the popular people here. Again, shocked that Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid were in this. Like, I just did not recognize either of his voices, which is kind of didn't really recognize anyone's voice, if I'm being honest, in this film. Of like,
I
which
don't
is
think because they're that
did.
unique.
Like,
They're
Jake
not that
Gyllenhaal-
unique.
I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal, Karan Soni, and Jabuki Young White, at least for me, knowing that they were in the movie, it was easy for me to pick them out. The rest of them were kind of up in the air.
for me, it was
But,
I say that as props to this movie because it really
yeah.
meant that I got into like these voices are these characters, and I think that's something that's 50-50 in any given movie that's animated. And I really liked the way that they did it in this one.
I also just like the fact that they reunited Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid as father and son, and they did an someone did an interview with the two of them, and Jake Gyllenhaal had forgotten that they were in The Day After Tomorrow as father and son because they didn't film a single scene together in that movie because they're never together in that movie, which is just kind of funny.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
great.
That was the movie.
That was the movie, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I
Um,
was thinking of another one. I think it was like some kind of like time
Oh,
travel kind of thing.
yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal was in
He
something.
was like a firefighter as he's talking to this through this ham radio. I don't know if it was him or Dennis Quaid. And he's trying to
That
talk
doesn't
to his
sound familiar
son.
to me.
one other notable thing
I'll
before we
have to
kind
look it
of
up.
move forward here and jump into the plot. There are a couple of
So,
moments in this that use 2D animation, which is always something I love
Mhm.
seeing. I really hope that Disney brings back 2D animation at some point.
I think they're planning to. I just don't know
They've done a
what.
couple of things here and there, like they had that Oswald short that recently came out that
Yeah.
was fully 2D animated. They did the How to Stay
the
at
Mickey
Home
Mouse
series.
stuff. The Mickey Mouse stuff right
Yeah.
now, a lot of that's 2D animation, but it would be
But
great to see
but
more
that
of
is
it.
still Disney television. Like I
Right.
really want to
Yeah.
see Disney Animation Studios do 2D again
Yeah.
because
I think
they're
they
so
will
good at it.
eventually. I think they will eventually, like because you notice with all these most recent films, they were always trying to bring experiment with style, right? Like when you look at like Strange World, the big noses. I noticed like on certain characters like Searcher and Jaeger. That was a very unique look. Like when compared to like when you see Turning Red. I know that's a Pixar film, but you know
Yeah.
they're playing with different styles now. It's
I don't
not as
know.
so
I feel
homogenous like when you think of Frozen and then every film leading up since then. You know.
I think they're playing with styles, but nowhere near the same way their competitors are. Because everything Disney makes might be in a slightly different style than their other Disney movie, but they all still kind of
Yeah.
have the same similar vibe to them. Like Turning Red does have very similar facial design in terms of like, oh, we're going to
Mhm.
have very rounded characters and whatnot to this movie. That's kind of very much become a Disney thing of this faux realistic. Of we might have these hyper realistic environments, but the characters are going to look this very specific way. As something like Puss in Boots: The Last
Spider-Verse.
Wish that just came out with DreamWorks.
Yeah,
DreamWorks is
I've heard.
reinventing themselves at the moment with this really interesting way, like with their last movie, The Bad Guys, and then with Puss in Boots, of having these really unique animation styles. And then we're seeing it with Sony Pictures, with Into the Spider-Verse and whatnot. And I really hope that Disney gets on this train of let's play with animation. Let's have the fun that we can only have in animation. Because we saw it a little bit at the beginning of this movie. We saw it with that awesome comic book opening of
Yeah.
let's have
Yeah.
the dots of the lighting from the comic book. Let's really have fun with this. And then they go back into the normal style. And it still looks great. It still looks very pretty. I just hope that we just experiment with it more.
I think
That-
like when we were talking earlier, like what would be a follow up with Strange Worlds? Like you could just do the 2D animated sequences like that as shorts on Disney Plus if they were to just continue on with the IP in general. You know,
That's the style of thing that I want to see from not just Disney. I want to see it across Star Wars and Marvel because we did see Star Wars take some risks with Star Wars Visions and that everything came out used like they used multiple different anime studios and developed different things. But even within, you look at the diversity of Pixar films and things have been slowly changing over time where each film does have its own unique look and feel to it. Everything from Inside Out to just making Toy Story look better than it ever did to something like Onward that went fantasy or the upcoming Elemental. It looks so different, but there is that element of sameness that I'm seeing. Like I agree with Griffin. Like everything Walt Disney Animations did post Princess and the Frog has looked kind of samey. And I would love to see more of that visual diversity in the way these products come together. Like Turning Red, that definitely had a distinct style. Like it was unique. It was unique to that film, but distinctly Pixar. Like it had that Pixar feel to it. And I feel like Disney could do that across the board with all of their properties. Make a Marvel animated series that looks the way that these comic book intros did. And I feel like we might get some of that with Spider-Man
Freshman year.
or What If?
freshman year, right?
What If we
Or
already
if they
have the
do What
animation
If.
style though. Like we already know
like that
what
animation
it looks
though.
like.
That's the problem.
I don't
hate
think
it. I don't hate it, but I hope freshman year and sophomore year do make it look different. And I'm very curious to see what X-Men 97 looks like in motion once we get a trailer for that.
What gets me about these other movies, and mostly this is a lot of me coming off of recently watching Puss in Boots: Last Wish, which everyone should go watch. It is a fantastic movie. I know we are a Disney podcast, but I will absolutely shill for any animation company. Mitch, go watch this movie. I know you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't. I'll do it. I don't know if I want to see that first or Avatar: The Way of Water.
Go see Puss in Boots. It's a much better time, and it's actually a decent story.
And it's probably only an hour and a half long.
You heard it here first, folks. Puss in Boots: Last Wish is better than Avatar: The Way of Water.
James Cameron might murder you in your sleep.
Come for me, James Cameron. I dare you.
He will smother you. You like Puss in Boots, God damn it.
No, seriously though, the way that these movies, and this one, and I would also throw in there Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the way they handle action especially is something that's very, very cool. They change frame rate. And that sounds like something ridiculously nerdy. I know it does, but it's something that's extremely noticeable in animation specifically, because it starts to almost look a little more stop motion-y. It looks a little more exaggerated, but it really adds this interesting effect that really makes you focus on what's happening. And you see it in these other movies, and Disney has never really done that. And it's something that we're kind of seeing to become a standard outside of Disney, even.
I feel like some of their competitors are surpassing them in the uniqueness or using the art as a plot device. Like even looking at something like Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm sure we're going to make these comparisons between every animation film we ever talk about and that movie, because I think it might be the greatest animated film of all time.
Will we do an episode that's outside of Disney just for Across the Spider-Verse? Maybe.
Special.
But like the fact that they used frame rate with Miles being in 12 frames a second and then moving to 24 frames per second throughout the film as he comes into his own as a hero, the fact they can use that as a plot device is something that is completely unique and something I want to see more of from Disney Animation. And I thought they might go there with the way this film bookend, but at least it's a step towards some unique animation in their storytelling, but not to the same extent as some of these other films.
Yeah. I just hope that I didn't want this to happen with Pixar in rotation and then Disney Animation Studios that are doing 3D films back to back, it seems to be. Like, I would love to see just Disney Animation Studio just take more risks and just not do 3D films in general. Just do some 2D
Can we say that for
experimental
just
stuff.
Disney in general?
Yeah.
Honestly, just Hollywood in general. Take more risks.
I feel like there are more risks from some of the projects we've seen in the last maybe 4 or 5 years. I am concerned with the current state of the economy that a lot of these companies will look at their forecasting and go for more of the safe bet. You look at what's been announced thus far from Pixar. They've only got 3 films in the pipeline, one of which is a sequel. I've got the list of Walt Disney Animation films upcoming here, and you've got that's across all. The only thing that they have announced is Wish for next year, which does seem like it'll be an interesting story, but again, looks to be following that similar style, and hopefully they can,
and they're still taking
figure out ways to do things unique.
Their risk they're taking at the moment is very story specific, which I love, and they really needed to be doing. Hopefully, them seeing that some of that's paying off will lead into more stuff, more risk taking and whatnot. I really do think we are in a. This feels like you mentioned Treasure Planet earlier. And it does kind of feel like we're back in that kind of era, right? Of the what's kind of referred to as the forgotten age of Disney.
I didn't forget it.
Oh no! Like most of my favorite Disney movies are from them, especially Treasure Planet and Atlantis. Which reminds me, we're getting Atlantis representation. We've got Atlantis representation last year and this year, which is weird to me. Go play Disney Dreamlight Valley. I had to get it.
I want to. It's just Marvel Snap, man. I can't stop snapping. It's just.
I keep saying that I'm never going back to streaming, but part of me really wants to stream Disney Dreamlight Valley for this channel.
Just to be that guy. Do it. I'll stream some Disney Speedstorm when that comes out for the channel.
Look, I recently restarted a farm on PC now, so I'm now on
Free
PlayStation,
platforms?
Switch, and PC. Look, I put it on my Steam Deck, and I am now 30 hours into starting a new farm, and I'm considering restarting it just so I can stream it. But that's beside the point. No, I really do feel like
For
we're
those
kind
on
of
audio, I'm shaking my head at Griffin.
I feel like we're kind of on that edge, right? Of like, this could really go either way. We could go into one of the greatest ages of animation in Disney, or we could go into the opposite direction of, hey, this might just be a few years where people just don't remember it.
They play it safe, and it'll cost them because we've seen that happen in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then again, you also need new content, and you have Disney Plus now, so maybe they'll just take those risks, not in the theaters, but maybe on the streaming.
I think
And I feel like
risks like bringing Phineas and Ferb back. Let's go.
I have not watched Phineas and Ferb,
You should.
but I've heard good things.
Dan Povenmire
So
is a gem to humanity.
I saw the news pop up that it's coming back. So
I don't know where Perry the Platypus is. He's somewhere in this room.
Dan Povenmire, for what it's worth, is the creator of Phineas and Ferb.
look for it later.
Or one of them. He's also the voice of Dr. Doofenshmirtz. And this man is a gem to society. Like
one of the greatest TikTok accounts in existence.
Yeah, if you're on TikTok, go follow him. He had an announcement video today for the fact that they were bringing it back, and it's one of the most like heartwarming, genuinely. I am so happy that I finally get to share this with you all moments I think I've ever seen.
It's up there for sure.
Like this, I love this man, but also I just love Phineas and Ferb, which. It's hilarious to me that this announcement happens like a couple of days after they relaunched the DuckTales experience in Epcot, which replaced an Agent P Perry the Platypus thing in Epcot.
I feel like the DuckTales one's gonna have a little more longevity though, just because those are legacy characters.
Mm-hmm. Which brings me to my
originally
point.
that attraction was Kim Possible, then Phineas and Ferb, and now
then DuckTales, then back to Phineas and Ferb, and now back to DuckTales.
Wait, what?
It went back to It went back to Agent P for a little bit, and then went back to DuckTales.
Oh, that's just bizarre.
So they redid it all to go through phones and through the new Magic Bands and stuff. Which brings me to my point of all this. Bring back DuckTales. Bring back that series. That was such a good series.
I have not finished watching the newer ones.
Neither have I.
Dude, we had that April Fool's Day where I forget who put out the images, but someone had put out images of like they had pitched to Disney a new DuckTales game, like same game style as the old one, but within like the new cartoon,
the new art
within
style.
That style, and I was like, oh, I wanted this. Disney video games, folks. I know it's not Disney Interactive anymore, but get on that.
Hey, we've got Disney Illusion Island this year. Maybe that'll make them realize this DuckTale game needs to happen.
Yeah, which we will be playing, folks. We will talk about that. Let's talk about the actual movie.
Are we gonna do episodes of the show on video games?
We can do episodes about anything ever since I changed the intro. So.
Bring me back for Aladdin on Genesis.
Spoiler cast on Marvel Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 5.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Genesis.
Like Aladdin. I have to be relatively careful about what I talk about, video game wise.
We will talk about it. We will talk about it off camera.
Folks, I work in video games. I can't talk about things my company makes. So that's all I will say. You know the game I'm referring to, Mitch.
If Griffin doesn't appear on an episode, you know why.
You understand. Will they still be there running it behind the scenes? Maybe.
150%. If you weren't here to run things, it would all crash and burn.
Let's talk about the film some more. I don't think we're gonna do a proper plot recap because we've been hanging out for a while. But I do.
We're almost an hour into this, right?
I do want to talk about a couple of like major things, specifically character design, and then just there's a bunch of scenes I want to shout out because they were absolutely wonderful. Most of them have to do with Splat, but the creature design in this was great. Those tentacle monsters were legitimately terrifying.
It's very simple but terrifying, like the tentacle
things. I hated
like a ball.
Those made me so uneasy.
Well, I love Prometheus.
Yeah,
I was like,
well, for me, like the character design, in hindsight, knowing what the actual plot of the film is, like the character design is low poly. It is fairly linear, because these are very base level. They're cells, basically, right? They are
Yeah.
antibodies and bacteria. And
I mean, we literally have
like,
red blood cells.
Organic.
yeah,
Organic.
it makes
base.
sense in hindsight. And just like they put so much in front of you that is foreshadowing without you knowing it until you've seen the thing, and it's really good.
But the way that also that they use these creatures for storytelling, especially, is great. Like having the splat creatures be like the
Seekers, I think, or something like that. Or
I don't know.
Creatures.
Splat is splat, and then
Oh.
there's red splat. But having them like be like these people that are like, hey, invasive thing, go kill it so that we stay safe. It's such a interesting and unique idea that works within the entirety context of the story, both knowing and not knowing that it's a living being. And then the other stuff of like the foreshadowing that they put at the very beginning of every time I blaze a trail, these guys come in and fix it and whatnot. It was just so well done, and all of them were still really good looking. Like my favorite ones they showed were the ones in like the acid, like the stomach area, the acid lake, which was another one of my favorite scenes of them like splat like conducting these beings.
It was like a musical segment.
But the reason I loved it so much was, first off, those things were adorable. Like, I would get a gigantic plush of one of those just so I could hug one. Though that's how cute I thought that those little green guys were. But also, every time Splat has to catch Legend.
Ethan? Oh, Legend, yeah.
No, Legend specifically. It's like they're doing like loop-de-loops and Legend just keeps falling off. It was the funniest thing to me.
I also just realized something reading through the IMDb page of this movie. Alan Tudyk doesn't just play the narrator.
Also the radio, also the initial
Also
pilot.
the pilot that gets murked right at the beginning of their
The
expedition.
most useless character in this entire movie.
That was a shocking
I
moment for
I
me.
still think
Just
Caspian is
straight
more
up.
useless than that pilot.
Caspian
Yeah.
at least survives. That pilot
is
does
true.
not.
No, he does not. But something else I want to mention before we get too into the weeds of the plot or just the scenes within the movie is the first scene of this entire thing, which was the in-theater debut of the Disney 100 title treatment. And like that, I got chills seeing this in theaters for the first time.
So good.
Is this the first film that they put that
It was,
100
yeah.
bumper on?
It was planned to be
Here's another marketing drop the
Right?
ball moment.
I mean, it was meant to debut before something earlier than this, and then they ended up editing it to have this be the first film that had it. I don't remember what that was.
It's a great moment though. Like that castle is iconic. We talk a lot about like whenever they change it up, we talk about it. Both in
because
terms
we're
of that,
nerds.
but we do it with Star Wars and Marvel too. Every time you change that title card, it's something we talk about because it's something that's so important to the brand, to the vibe of everything they put out. And that tagline, 100 Years of Wonder, is a great tagline.
I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you follow Straw Hat Goofy on TikTok.
I don't anymore, but
Okay, so he had a video on the fact that he did quit his day job earlier this year to do content creation full time, but before he did that, he worked for an agency that was working with Disney on pitching, what is the 100-year tagline, and his pitch to Disney was Wonder. And while they didn't end up using the agency's original pitch, he ended up seeing that they used Wonder in that and seeing that everywhere, which is just that's cool.
that is pretty cool.
That's just really cool.
Yeah, good for him on that one.
Yeah.
No, I really do love that opening though of coming up on the backside of the castle rather than up the river and seeing it like we normally see it.
All and the color transition on the castle, especially, like, I wasn't a huge fan of the pink castle when they did the repaint of that in Walt Disney World, but I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of grown on me.
I kind of grew to love the repaint on the castle at Disney World.
When did they repaint the castle?
They repainted it last early couple years ago for the 50th anniversary.
Okay.
They did it, I think,
Can't
during
recall.
the pandemic because all of the 50th anniversary stuff ended up getting pushed because of, this whole COVID thing kept us from doing stuff.
Yeah, tell me that's not confusing. Going into your 50th anniversary at Walt Disney World into your 100-year anniversary celebration of the actual company, just after you did like your 75-year or something, or maybe it was 60. anniversary for
think it was
Disneyland.
A lot of Disney
65.
milestones.
Like they
Well, and
look,
then
they
this
celebrate
year is
everything.
also the 30th year anniversary of Disneyland Paris.
Like, you don't get me wrong, you celebrate every one of those because those are major milestones, especially for freaking theme parks.
Also, it's Disney, so they need to market the crap out of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I talked about a couple of my favorite scenes. You know, that board game scene, the scene in the acid with the adorable green guys. What were some of your guys' favorites? Gonna make you think on this one.
One of the quieter moments, I think it was with Searcher and Jaeger talking, and how Jaeger was just realizing like I lost 25 years of my life, and he was like, I can't change, because he's been that way, like old,
Yeah, that was a
I
great
really
moment.
I really enjoyed the first real interaction between Jaeger and Searcher when he runs into him in the below world. I don't know what we're calling it. The soft tissue.
stomach.
The lungs.
Where he thinks he's hallucinating and that Searcher isn't
Yeah.
actually there, and he's like catching him up on what he's missed over the last 25 years, and he tells him about the fact that his wife is now with somebody else.
Penelope.
It's like, yeah, it's just like, I'm gonna kill him. I have always hated that guy. It's like, you never met him. Yeah, but I hate his stupid name, so I'll hate his stupid face.
And then you meet him, and the dude's essentially Kronk. Yeah. Dude, that was a hilarious line of like, she's dead? No, that woman's going on 50 and works out every day. No, I think that moment of like, I'll never change was one of those like perfect kind of like, hey, here's a reminder of like what the story is really about moments. And we got a couple of really good ones with that. I really loved the ending as well when everyone goes out to see the eye, to see the creature, and like everybody's looking at the eye and whatnot except for Jaeger and Searcher. Yeah. And they're kind of just having this moment.
Well, I mean, just the whole climax of Jaeger coming back and just telling Searcher, these mountains are my legacy, you are, and the idea of familial legacy and understanding what your worth is and trying to, have a survivable environment for your future generations to grow and live in is it's touching, especially in the times we're living in now, where you see things like the major storms and flooding in California, and it's scary to have to follow this stuff. Be like, yeah, is this a world you would want to bring children into? And it's hard to say one way or another for a lot of us. And I feel like that's something that's only going to continue to grow and fester within society over time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, it's one of those things that, like, yeah, California's flooded this season. Next season, it's wildfires. Meanwhile, we're getting hurricanes on the other side.
And horrendous drought. Yeah.
And then we've had extreme cold weathers, storms last month. So
yeah, like Texas is freezing, which is just weird to me. Like, it's definitely poignant. But I think we also had
timely for sure.
We had a really good line there that kind of goes back to like the big things of the movie of when it is Searcher and Jaeger arguing when Jaeger's going to take off of, I'm about to destroy my legacy so that my kid has a place to live.
Yeah, he was going to get rid of all that Pano. Like, that's what he was known for.
Also, Panda's just a great name as well, by the way.
It was kind of like, I found it kind of odd that, like, I don't know.
It works.
At the end of the day, it's a MacGuffin, but like, I don't know. I didn't really vibe with it.
Yeah. MacGuffin's a MacGuffin, but I thought it worked well for it. I think it was named after something in like, or something. Let me look it up.
Utah or something. I think I saw.
It was something like that.
I was looking through.
Yeah.
Also, just the scene with Searcher and his, or not Searcher, with Ethan and his friends, both in the beginning of the film and then at the end. Just seeing that character development is him being like super awkward and teenagery about, his crush and all that, and his dad trying to be his best dad about it. Like the father-son moments at the beginning with Searcher and Ethan are just awesome, especially when they're doing the deliveries. It's like, my kid thinks I'm an amazing dad. It's like, oh, you're just trying to embarrass him, but he's not like mad at you. He's just like embarrassed, which is just so fun. And
I was interested to see how that was going to play out with when Jaeger was asking Ethan, like, so do you have a crush on anybody? And he's like, well, so who is it? Who is it? And then he tells him it's a guy.
And
And
then
I
just
was
keep
like,
going.
oh, yeah.
It's like that narrative, or at least like the world that they live in, has normalized that, at least to
Yeah.
this extent. Especially having
I was surprised
normalized
that
it for
they
25 years
normalized
is
that.
surprising.
But yeah, he didn't have to do like what? What are you talking about?
No, it was
I
just
very
normal.
much, when he told him, I very much expected the old man thing of, oh, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm both glad they didn't go that route, but it also would have been interesting to see these characters address something like that of, generational understanding of gay relationships is something that I would love to see further explored in film, and Disney would be, at the forefront if they were to do it, and they haven't. It was sort of just like, yeah, this is normal here, which is also a good approach to it. But
I can't help but think that was originally in the script. Like, this movie felt, and like I think you can see it a little bit in the writing of this, felt like it was rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. And it felt like it was rewritten because of decisions that higher ups didn't want. I would love to see what the original script for this movie was, because it feels like it was something else slightly different. Maybe largely different.
I would pay good money to, attend a roundtable discussion from the directors and writers just to understand what that process was like, what didn't make it off of the cutting room floor, because they don't tend to put out movies of this length. So there was definitely some major time cut off of this movie, I would think, from because like Disney just doesn't make movies like this, which while on one hand I appreciate a movie that was succinct and not 2 hours long, but I'm just curious what didn't make it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did manage to go see an online panel during Taffy. They had some of the creators that worked on Strange World, but they didn't go into the story per se, like the story process. It was more technical on the animation side. So seeing
probably still a little fresh, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's something of like, I'm very curious like what the process was on this one, especially with having LGBTQ plus representation, because we very much seen surprisingly firsthand what the process has been like on the television side, particularly with stuff like Owl House, and to lesser degrees with stuff like High School Musical, the musical, the series. Always a mouthful.
We'll never stop saying it because that show's just a ton of fun.
But yeah, I'm very curious. Like, this is one of those kind of thing where it's like we're gonna look back on this in a few years and be like, "Oh, really? That's how that went down."
Yeah,
like,
what could have been?
Like, I can't help but think that there was stuff behind the scenes that was fighting against this movie, and I think that's why the marketing happened. Like, we've talked about Treasure Planet a couple times in this episode, but like Treasure Planet is this like practically famous story now of like it didn't get marketed because the directors pissed off Disney. Like, that was the reason that movie did not get marketed.
Yeah, I don't actually remember what that movie was about. I should rewatch that at
Treasure
some point.
Planet? You mean it's Treasure Island in space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, like the story
I think
behind
Treasure
that.
Planet. The problem is I'll start searching Treasure on Disney Plus, and then I'll get Muppets Treasure Island and be like, oh, I'm just gonna watch that.
I mean, the story behind Treasure Planet was literally they went over studio heads and went straight to Roy Disney.
Oh God.
And because Roy loved the idea of Treasure Planet. And that's how their studio was like brought on, because they had done stuff like Little Mermaid and like really brought back like the Disney Renaissance era. So they're like, with that, we've proven we can make these amazing things. We want to make something that is ours as well. And here's this idea we've had for a while. They pitched it. It was going to get made, but then it got shelved for some of the more Renaissance stuff. That's why it was made so late in the 2D animation era. I can't help but feel like this was that. And like, obviously this is all wild speculation. But I don't know, there's a vibe here, you know?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go. Like the biggest thing I'm taking away from this episode, where we've been talking about how great Strange World is I should probably go watch Treasure Planet for what might be the first time.
Go watch it. I still listen to some of the songs from that movie. So
Goo Goo Dolls. Was it not Goo Goo Dolls?
I think Goo Goo Dolls were. I want to say they were on like
the lead singer guy.
I don't know. I've got the soundtrack up here, or I've got the IMDb up with the soundtrack.
I think it's Goo Goo Dolls.
There is a relation there. I just don't know.
E.B.
what.
Mack, John Resnick.
Okay, yeah, they did do the Iris.
John Resnick.
Iris, the song in there, "I'm Still Here" is sung by them.
John
as well.
Resnick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm Still Here. It's a song I still listen to all the time. No, it's a great movie. I highly recommend you go watch that, Mitch. And highly recommend that everyone goes watches Strange World. Like y'all, like
it took 10 years to make that damn movie. Holy crap!
Yeah, like read the making of that movie because it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And I
Definitely
like I said,
going
I
on
think,
the list.
I think something.
I'm
might
sure
have happened.
someone will come up with a whole doc series of how Strange World came to be.
Funk Lib, get
I
on
wish
it.
we had. I wish
I would love
wish
if
we still
Disney
had bonus
themselves-
features on DVDs and Blu-rays like this.
I would love Disney going back and reflecting on like doing their own "How did this get made?" Disney edition. Like that would be really interesting and insightful. And you can look at the success stories like Star Wars Visions or Mandalorian, like the big stuff. And I mean, they've already done a lot of behind the scenes stuff for the Disney Plus originals, which I really do appreciate. But I'd love to see someone just go back historically, and be like, yes, somehow this got made, and we are going to dig into it.
See, I would love that. My only concern is with stuff like Treasure Planet, like Owl House, like this. There is definitely stuff there that Disney doesn't want public. And I think the only way we'd ever get those stories if it was somebody outside of Disney telling those stories. Because as much as I love the Imagineering story or Behind the Attraction, or at least historical shows, the ILM documentary, they are still colored by the successes that Disney wants to show off.
Yeah, highlight the positive. Don't talk about the
they
negative.
are to some level slightly revisionist. Really, it's just more ignoring the bad parts. History, which is not perfect.
Very true.
It's 90% of the picture, right? It's like while people talk about Hamilton, it's like Hamilton's great. It's only about 80% of the story of the actual man.
Yeah. Not nearly as many prominent black figures in the story of the American Revolution either.
It's kind of the point.
Yeah.
The casting in Hamilton. But we're not talking about Hamilton. There's an episode on that way back when that dropped. Go watch that if you want to hear people talk about Hamilton. No, we should probably wrap this episode up. I think we all agree, recommend people go watch Strange World.
100%. Go watch Osmosis Jones 2 Strange World.
Yes, and watch Treasure Planet.
And Treasure Planet as well.
And watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish over Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yes, that I'm breaking that out and tweeting it and just adding James Cameron to piss off nerds.
Oh, please. I mean, on one hand, it could get traction and people would see the podcast. But on the other hand, let's not piss off one of the most prominent filmmakers in the last 20 years.
What am I got nothing to lose, man. I got nothing to lose.
When did Titanic come out? 99?
I don't know. I don't care.
They're re-releasing it.
Yeah, I know. They're doing the high frame
in
rate thing, aren't
4K
they?
and 3D.
I still think that they're just re-releasing that so that it gets higher in the highest box office ever.
1997, and 100% the reason behind it is because they wanted to pass Avengers, because James Cameron, while congratulating Avengers for passing Avatar, definitely had Avatar re-release so it would pass Avengers.
That's that's why I have no issues pissing this man off, because he has a massive ego.
He's a little petty.
I'm upset that re-release of Avatar is not yet on Disney Plus. They still have the original.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put the 4K version up. That's kind of bizarre.
I think they'll put it up when they put up Way of Water.
Way of Water, which should be soon, right? Like it's.
We'll see. It's having a long enough run in theaters that they'll probably push it a bit.
No, I mean, how long did Top Gun stay in theaters?
Well, I meant more so the turnaround time from theatrical to Disney Plus for most properties has been about 6 weeks. And while Avatar is doing really well in theaters, when that hits Disney Plus, I don't care how much you don't like Pocahontas, but it's blue people and also has a whole bunch of Aboriginal characters not being played by Aboriginal actors, which is a problem. It will do gangbusters when it hits Disney Plus. And we won't talk about it.
We won't talk about it because we don't like the movie. And as much as we like talking about things,
I'll talk about it when I see it.
I have my concerns just with it in general.
Tell you what, I'll bring it back. We'll bring you back on. It will just be you. Just you talking
Okay.
about
Hey guys, welcome to my Avatar soapbox. I have no I have no pony in this.
I will make you a podium that will just like superimpose on the video.
No, just order it and I'll deliver it.
Oh, even better, even better. No, let's wrap this thing up. Listen, thanks for joining us. Where can people find you?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, you.
Jason, yes.
I said Jason.
Oh,
sorry, I said your name
You
very
can find me-
fast.
I was gonna say, Griffin likes to fast
Yeah,
talk
you
when
can
he's
find me.
tired.
I fast
you
talk
can
all
find
the
me
time.
on-
Normally, I'm better about it.
That's because you're always tired when I talk to you. That's why I just assumed.
I live off caffeine.
Yeah.
You live in Portland. It's on brand.
Yeah, Jason, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at jdas2k. Hit me up there.
And Mitch, the all-important stuff that we shill at the end of every episode. Where can people
At
find
D
you?
plus us on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, soon to be coming to Instagram and any other social platform your grandmother might be on. So make sure you go to whatever page on your aunt, Susie's iPhone and make sure you're following at D plus us on all of those platforms. Griffin is all over the place at GriffyDPad. That's GriffIDPAD. And I'm everywhere at Mr. Mitch George. Links at MitchGeorge.com.
Here's what I need y'all to do. I need y'all to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. Then go down to your local bookshop, and when you want to, after watching this movie and getting that Jules Verne itch, go find a Jules Verne book, buy it from your local bookshop, and while checking out, talk to them about our channel and get them to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's your goal for today.
Do I need to go grab my copy of Journey to the Center of the Earth right now?
No, you need to go
I
get
feel
a
like I
brand new
do.
one from a local bookstore.
Why
And
can't I
rent
just
a
grab the one
copy
that's
of
already on my
Treasure
bookshelf?
Planet.
So that you can go support local bookstores. Duh.
But I mean, we don't have
or
local
rent
bookstores. They're all
or
chains
borrow an
here.
atlas and travel.
You say I live in the city with the most famous local bookstore. So
Blockbuster?
no, that's Bent. I live in the city with Palace Books. No,
Close enough.
yeah, go. No, seriously, no, folks, go to check out that YouTube channel where we do have all of our content up. We are currently doing weekly episodes when I remember to post them about National Treasure Edge of History. We have
It's all over.
We've talked 6 episodes about that. I think it's 4 episodes total of our show to go watch over
5.
there.
Oh, no, yeah, 4, because 2 of them we did 2 episodes. You're
We
right.
also have our last full episode up there, which is weird to think that our last full episode was about Muppets Christmas Carol. So,
Again, please go watch that because right now it's sitting at 99 views, at least the last time I checked. And it would be awesome to get that over 100 because that is a nice little milestone for us.
yeah, our first video over 100 and whatnot. Yeah, go check out our other stuff. We would be super happy if you watched everything, but, just being here is enough. If you made it to the end of this podcast, thank you. This has been
I
a
love you.
rambly, weird one, so, thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you all in the next episode, but until next time, have a magical day.